The brake lights of my parents' car disappeared around the corner, and I realized they weren't coming back. I stood there in front of a homeless shelter in Denver, Colorado, 150 miles from home, with nothing but a worn backpack. My mother's last words echoed in my head. She's dead weight. Dump her. Homeless suits her. My father had laughed from the passenger seat. I was 25 years old, a college graduate with a degree in accounting, and my own parents had just abandoned me like trash. I need to take you back 3 weeks to explain how I ended up here. My name is Kristy, and I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, in what looked like a normal middle-class family. But normal was the last word anyone would use if they knew the truth. My parents, Gary and Diane Thompson, had 2 daughters. Me and my younger sister Amber, who was 23. From the moment Amber was born, I became invisible. She got the new clothes while I wore hand-me-downs. She got birthday parties while I got a cupcake. She failed classes and got tutors. I worked 2 jobs to pay for college, and they never even asked how I was doing. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I'd prove my worth through hard work and success. I graduated with honors, landed interviews at top accounting firms, and came home 3 weeks ago ready to start my career. I thought maybe, finally, my parents would see me. That's when Amber made her move. She caught me in the kitchen 2 days after I got home. Her eyes were red, makeup smeared down her cheeks. "Kristy, I need to talk to you," she sobbed. I'd never seen my sister cry like that. Despite everything, she was still my sister. "What's wrong?" I asked, genuinely concerned. "It's Kyle," she said, naming her on-again, off-again boyfriend. "He left me, and I'm pregnant." My heart broke for her. I pulled her into a hug while she cried on my shoulder. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "I don't know. I have no job, no money, no future. Mom and Dad will kill me when they find out." She looked up at me with those big eyes. "You always had it together, Kristy. You're so smart, so capable. I wish I could be like you." It was the first time she'd ever said anything like that to me. I felt a surge of protective love. "I'll help you," I promised. "I have an interview next week at Morrison & Associates. They mentioned they might have openings for an assistant position too. Let me put in a good word for you." Her face lit up. "Really? You'd do that for me?" "Of course. You're my sister." The next day, I called the hiring manager at Morrison & Associates and told them about Amber. I vouched for her character, said she was reliable and hardworking. They agreed to consider her for the assistant role while processing my application for the junior accountant position. Amber hugged me tight. "Thank you, Kristy. I'll never forget this." 1 week later, I received an email that shattered my world. The subject line read, "Regarding your application. Dear Miss Thompson, we regret to inform you that we have filled the junior accountant position. However, we were impressed with your sister's qualifications and have hired her for the role. We wish you the best in your future endeavors." I read it 3 times, certain I'd misunderstood. They hired Amber for my position, the one requiring a degree in accounting? Amber had barely graduated high school. I stormed into the living room where Amber sat on the couch, painting her nails. "What did you do?" I demanded. She looked up, her face a mask of innocence. "What are you talking about?" "Morrison & Associates. They hired you for the accountant position. My position." She shrugged. "I guess they liked me better." "That's impossible. You don't have the qualifications. What did you tell them?" My mother walked in then, irritation crossing her face. "Why are you yelling at your sister?" "She stole my job," I said. "Stole?" Diane's voice dripped with disdain. "Kristy, the world doesn't revolve around you. If the company chose Amber, maybe you should ask yourself why." "Because she lied to them." I ran to my room and pulled up the email correspondence. That's when I found them. Messages I never sent. Amber had accessed my email and sent the company a message claiming I was pregnant and unable to accept the position, but that my sister would be perfect for the role. She'd attached my resume, my transcripts, my recommendation letters, and claimed they were hers. I printed everything and brought it to my parents. "Look, she impersonated me. She stole my credentials." Gary didn't even glance at the papers. Amber explained this. "You're jealous because she's finally succeeding. You've always been jealous of your sister." "That's not true. She committed fraud." Diane stepped closer, her face twisted with anger. You ungrateful brat. After everything we've done for you. Her hand flew across my face. The slap echoed through the room. I touched my burning cheek, stunned. You're choosing her over me? Even with proof? There is no proof, Gary said coldly. Just a desperate attempt to sabotage your sister's future. Amber is pregnant. She needs this job to support our grandchild. What do you need it for? You've always been selfish, Kristy. Always thinking only of yourself. Get out, Diane said. Pack your things and get out of this house. We don't want you here. I couldn't believe this was happening. You're kicking me out? You did this to yourself, Gary said. Don't contact us, don't come back. You're not our daughter anymore. With shaking hands, I packed my belongings into one backpack. I had $400 in my bank account, my phone, and nowhere to go. I thought maybe they'd cool down, see reason. I went downstairs where Gary waited by his car. I'll drive you to a motel, he said. I got in, relieved. At least he was showing some decency. But as we drove, I noticed we weren't heading toward any motel. We were on the highway, heading west. Where are we going, I asked. Somewhere you can learn to survive on your own, he replied. We drove for hours. Diane met us halfway, taking over the driving. When we finally stopped, we were in Denver, Colorado, 150 miles from home. Gary pointed to a building. Homeless shelter. You wanted independence? Here it is. You can't be serious, I whispered. Diane smiled, cold and cruel. She's dead weight. Dump her. Homeless suits her. She laughed, actually laughed. Let's see how she survives. Gary reached over and took my phone. You won't be needing this. He took my debit card too. Or this. They drove away, leaving me standing there with nothing. The shelter doors felt heavier than they should have. Inside, the air smelled of disinfectant and desperation. People sat on benches along the walls, their eyes hollow and distant. I approached the front desk where a stern-looking woman in her 50s sat behind scratched plexiglass. Name? She asked without looking up. Kristy Thompson. I need a place to stay. She slid a clipboard through the opening. Fill this out. Rules are posted on the wall. Doors open at 6 p.m., you're out by 7 a.m. No exceptions. No drugs, no alcohol, no fighting. Break the rules. You're banned for 30 days. Her name tag read, Patricia. I'm not supposed to be here, I started. My parents just left me and I have no money, no phone. Everyone here has a story, sweetie. Fill out the form. That first night, I lay on a thin mattress surrounded by strangers, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. A woman coughed. Someone snored. In the distance, sirens wailed. This couldn't be my life. This couldn't be real. Morning came too fast. Patricia knocked on the door at 6:30 a.m. Time to go. Out. I stumbled into the cold Denver morning with no plan and no destination. I walked until I found a public library. The librarian, a kind older man named Mr. Chen, let me use the computer. I tried logging into my email, but Amber had changed the password. I tried my bank account. Password changed. She'd locked me out of everything. I sent messages to friends from college, people I'd studied with, people I'd helped with their homework and projects. Please, I need help. My family abandoned me. Can anyone let me stay for a few days? For 3 days, I walked the streets during the day and slept at the shelter at night. I went to every restaurant, every store, every office building asking for work. But without an address, without references, without even a phone number to call back, no one would hire me. On the 4th day, I got my first email response. It was from Jennifer, my roommate from sophomore year. My hands shook as I opened it. Kristy, I can't believe what you did. Amber contacted all of us. My blood went cold. I kept reading. She sent us screenshots of texts where you threatened her and stole money from your parents. She said you had a mental breakdown and became dangerous. She's worried you might try to hurt her or the baby. I'm sorry, but I can't help you. None of us can. Please get help. I sat frozen in front of the computer screen. Amber hadn't just taken my job. She'd taken my reputation, my friends, my entire support system. I opened Facebook on the public computer and found my account. Amber had posted from her profile, "Please pray for my family. My sister has been diagnosed with serious mental health issues and has made threats. We're devastated, but working with authorities to keep everyone safe. The post had 63 comments, all supportive of Amber, all condemning me. I searched my name and found more. Amber had created fake text screenshots showing me demanding money, threatening to hurt her, claiming her baby wasn't real. She'd photoshopped my face onto pictures at bars, holding bottles, looking drunk and disheveled. She'd built an entire false narrative. I tried to log into my social media to defend myself. Locked out. She'd changed those passwords too. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I put my head down on the library desk and cried silently. Mr. Chen came over and gently touched my shoulder. "Are you okay, miss?" I wasn't. I was so far from okay, but I nodded anyway. That night at the shelter, I met Margaret. She was 42, with tired eyes and calloused hands. She'd been an accountant too, before her divorce left her homeless. We talked quietly in the corner while others settled in for the night. "How do you survive this?" I asked her. "One day at a time," she said. "And you find the jobs nobody else wants, the ones that pay cash and don't ask questions." The next morning, Margaret took me to a small Mexican restaurant called Rosa's Kitchen. The owner, an older woman with silver hair and a warm smile, looked me over. "You ever wash dishes?" Rosa asked. "I can learn," I said. She studied my face, seeing something there. "You're not from here, are you?" "No, ma'am." "Running from something?" I hesitated. "Running from people who should have loved me." Rosa nodded slowly. "I understand that. Be here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Work hard and you'll get paid. Cash. No questions." I almost cried with relief. "Thank you." For 2 weeks, I washed dishes at Rosa's Kitchen. My hands cracked and bled from the hot water and harsh soap. My back ached from standing for 10 hours straight. But I had money. Not much, but enough to buy a cheap prepaid phone and save for something better. I contacted my old professor from college, Professor Helen Williams. She'd always believed in me. I explained everything through email, half expecting her to ignore me like everyone else. She responded within an hour. "Kristy, I know you. You're not capable of what they're saying. I'll write you a recommendation letter. Don't give up." With her letter, I applied to a small accounting firm in Denver called Bradford & Associates. The interview went better than I'd hoped. The manager, Tom Bradford, was a serious man in his mid-40s with graying hair and sharp eyes. He asked tough questions and I answered honestly about my skills, my education, my goals. I didn't mention my family situation. "You're exactly what we need," Tom said at the end. "I'll call you within a week." I walked out of that office, feeling hope for the first time in a month. Maybe I could build something here. Maybe I could prove everyone wrong. 3 days later, my prepaid phone rang. Tom's number. "Hello?" I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Kristy, it's Tom Bradford." His voice sounded different, uncomfortable. "I'm calling about your application." "Yes?" "I'm sorry, but we cannot proceed with hiring you." The hope crumbled. "May I ask why?" He sighed. "Someone called our office 2 days ago. A woman claiming to be from your previous employer. She said you were terminated for embezzlement. That you'd stolen client funds and were under investigation. We can't take that risk." "Amber, it had to be." "Mr. Bradford, that's not true. I've never been employed in accounting yet. I just graduated. Whoever called you was lying." "I want to believe you, Kristy, but we have to protect our clients. I'm sorry." The line went dead. I stood on the sidewalk outside Rosa's Kitchen, phone clutched in my hand. Amber wasn't just going to let me disappear. She was going to make sure I had nothing. I did something I'd sworn not to do. I called home using the few minutes I had left on my phone. Diane answered on the 3rd ring. "What?" Her voice dripped with contempt. "Mom, please, tell Amber to stop. I'm not trying to come back. I'm not trying to cause problems. Just let me live my life. Stop calling here. You're not our daughter anymore. Why do you believe her and not me?" My voice cracked. "I'm your daughter, too. Doesn't that mean anything?" Diane laughed, sharp and cruel. "Because Amber is pregnant with our first grandchild. You? You're nothing but trouble. You've always been trouble." Something in her words caught me. "Wait. Amber told me the baby's father left her, that she was alone. Kyle proposed last week. They're getting married next month. See? Amber has everything figured out. Meanwhile, you're calling from some homeless shelter begging for scraps of attention. My mind raced. Amber had lied to me about Kyle leaving her. The pregnancy story she told me was fake. Everything had been calculated. Gary's voice came through the phone, having grabbed it from Diane. If you contact us again, we'll file a restraining order. We've told Amber to press charges if you harass her. Leave us alone, Kristy. You're dead to us. The line went dead. I stood there as the sun set over Denver, and something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to beg anymore. I wasn't going to cry anymore. If they wanted me to survive on my own, I'd do more than survive. I'd show them what I was really capable of. Margaret found me sitting on the curb behind Rosa's kitchen, staring at nothing. She sat down beside me without a word. After a long silence, she spoke. I know that look. That's the look of someone deciding whether to give up or get angry. I'm choosing angry, I said quietly. She smiled. Good. Angry keeps you alive out here. Over the next month, I worked double shifts at Rosa's kitchen. Rosa, bless her heart, increased my pay when she saw how hard I pushed myself. I saved every dollar, eating only the staff meals Rosa provided and sleeping at the shelter. I bought professional clothes from the thrift store and took free online courses at the library in advanced accounting and fraud detection. At night, after washing dishes for 10 hours, I taught myself coding. If traditional accounting jobs were closed to me because of Amber's lies, I'd create my own opportunities. I learned Python, SQL, database management. My eyes burned from staring at library computer screens, but I didn't stop. 3 months after being abandoned, I had saved $800 and taught myself skills most accountants didn't have. I applied to a small tech-focused firm called Hayes Digital Solutions. The company specialized in financial software for small businesses. The owner, Andrew Hayes, was 32, with the energy of someone who'd built his company from nothing. He wore jeans to the interview and asked me to solve a real problem instead of answering standard questions. Our client has transaction data that doesn't reconcile, he said, pulling up a spreadsheet. Find the error. I found 3 errors in 20 minutes, including one that suggested potential fraud. Andrew leaned back in his chair, impressed. When can you start? Tomorrow, I said. He laughed. I like you. How about Monday? Junior financial analyst. The pay isn't great to start, but there's room to grow. I wanted to cry with relief, but kept my composure. Thank you. You won't regret this. I don't do background checks, he said casually. I care about what you can do, not where you've been. Everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves. I started the following Monday. The office was small, just 8 people working in an open space filled with computers and whiteboards covered in diagrams. Everyone was young, passionate, and treated me like a colleague from day one. No judgment, no questions about my past. I threw myself into the work. Andrew noticed and started giving me more complex projects. 6 weeks in, he asked me to audit the books for a new client, a mid-sized logistics company. I spent 3 days reviewing their financial records. Something felt wrong. The numbers looked clean on the surface, but there were patterns hidden underneath. Money transferring between accounts and amounts just below reporting thresholds. Payments to shell companies with no clear business purpose. Invoices that matched perfectly, too perfectly, suggesting they'd been fabricated. This was money laundering. I was sure of it. I sat at my desk, staring at the evidence, my heart pounding. If I reported this and was wrong, I'd lose the first real job I'd had. If I was right but the client was dangerous, I could be putting myself at risk. If I said nothing and this was real, I'd be complicit in criminal activity. I thought about everything Amber had done, how she'd lied and cheated and destroyed me without hesitation. I could play it safe, keep my head down, survive, but never thrive. Or I could stand up and do the right thing, even if it was dangerous. I knocked on Andrew's office door. He looked up from his computer. What's up, Kristy? We need to talk about the logistics client, in private. He gestured for me to close the door. I laid out everything I'd found, showing him the patterns, the suspicious transactions, the shell companies. Andrew listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. "You're very observant, Kristy." "I'm sorry if I overstepped. I just thought you should know before we finalize their account." "No, you did exactly right." He leaned forward. "Can I trust you with something?" I nodded. "I'm working with the FBI. This company isn't really a tech firm. It's a bait operation to catch a money laundering network. You just identified exactly what we've been investigating for 6 months." My mouth went dry. "What?" "The FBI approached me 2 years ago. They needed someone in the financial tech space to help build a case against an organized crime ring. We create legitimate software, but we also take on clients that the FBI suspects of financial crimes. We gather evidence legally through our services. So this whole company is real. The software is real. Most of our clients are real. But yes, we also work with law enforcement." He studied my face. "I'm telling you this because I think you'd be valuable to the operation. You found in 3 days what took our other analysts 3 months to piece together. I want to offer you a position as an informant." Informant? The word felt dangerous in my mouth. "You'd continue working here, but you'd also be trained by the FBI. You'd help identify suspicious activity and gather evidence. It's not without risk. These are serious criminals. But if you agree, you'd be helping take down people who hurt innocent victims. And when this is over, the FBI offers excellent career opportunities for people who assist them." I thought about my parents laughing as they drove away. I thought about being powerless, abandoned, destroyed by lies. I thought about Amber living my life while I washed dishes. "What do I have to do?" I asked. Andrew's smile widened. "First, meet your FBI handler." The door opened, and a woman walked in. She was in her late 30s, with dark hair pulled back and sharp, intelligent eyes. She held out her hand. "Special Agent Sarah Martinez. Thanks for your help with this case, Kristy. Now let's talk about making it official." I shook her hand, and in that moment, I knew my life was about to change again. But this time, I was choosing the change. I was choosing to fight back. "I'm in," I said. "I'm done being a victim." Agent Martinez trained me for 2 weeks before I started the real work. She taught me how to document conversations, how to recognize criminal behavior, how to stay safe while gathering evidence. The FBI issued me a new phone with recording capabilities and a panic button that would bring agents to my location within minutes. "Rule number 1, Sarah said during our first session. "You observe and report. You never confront. You never take unnecessary risks. Your job is to be eyes and ears, nothing more." "Understood," I said. The target was a network moving money through various businesses, including the logistics company I'd audited. The man at the top was Vincent Carter, a 50-year-old businessman who looked like he belonged in boardrooms, not courtrooms. He owned restaurants, car dealerships, real estate companies. All legitimate fronts for washing money from drug trafficking, illegal gambling, and extortion. My role was to continue analyzing financial records for companies in his network. When I found suspicious activity, I'd document it and pass the information to Sarah. Simple. Safe. Or so I thought. Everything changed on a Thursday afternoon. Andrew called me into his office where Sarah waited. Both looked serious. "We have a situation," Sarah said. "Vincent wants to meet you." My stomach dropped. "Why?" "You flagged some transactions in one of his restaurant chains. He's getting paranoid. Thinks someone in his organization is stealing from him. He wants to hire Hayes Digital Solutions to audit his entire operation. He specifically asked for the analyst who found the discrepancies. That's you. Can't someone else go?" I asked. "If we refuse or send someone different, he'll get suspicious. This is actually an opportunity. You'll have access to records we've been trying to get for months. But I won't lie to you, Kristy. This is dangerous. Vincent is smart and he's ruthless. If he suspects anything, you're in serious trouble." I thought about backing out. This was more than I'd signed up for. But then I remembered something Sarah had told me during training. The people we catch don't just hurt criminals. They hurt regular people. Families. They profit from addiction and desperation. "I'll do it," I said. The meeting was set for the following Monday at one of Vincent's restaurants, an upscale Italian place called Reggio's. Sarah wired me up with a recording device hidden in my watch. 2 agents would be in the restaurant posing as diners. "Remember," Sarah said before I went in, "you're just a financial analyst doing a job. Be professional. Be confident. Don't volunteer information he doesn't ask for." Vincent Carter sat at a corner table, a glass of red wine in front of him. He was handsome in a cold way, with silver hair and eyes that measured everything. 2 large men in suits stood nearby. Bodyguards. "Miss Thompson," Vincent said, standing to shake my hand. His grip was firm, his smile didn't reach his eyes. "Thank you for meeting me. Please, sit." I sat, trying to keep my breathing steady. Vincent studied me for a moment that felt like an hour. "You're young," he observed. "I'm good at what I do," I replied. "So I've heard. You found discrepancies in my restaurant accounts that my own accountants missed. That's either very impressive or very concerning. Financial analysis is about patterns. I'm trained to see them. Tell me about yourself, Miss Thompson. Where's your family?" The question felt like a trap. Sarah had prepared me for this. Cincinnati originally, but I prefer Denver. Fresh start, you know. "And what brought you to Denver? Running from something?" My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. Running toward something. Better opportunities. Vincent sipped his wine, never taking his eyes off me. "You're lying." The blood drained from my face. "Excuse me?" Everyone who comes to a new city alone is running from something. The question is what? Bad relationship? Legal trouble? Family problems? He leaned forward. "I can always tell when someone's hiding something, Miss Thompson. So I'll ask you one more time. What are you running from?" My mind raced. If I kept lying, he'd know. Sarah's voice echoed in my head. "Stay as close to the truth as possible." "My family," I said quietly. "They threw me out. I had nothing, so I came here to build something from scratch." Vincent leaned back, satisfied. "Now that I believe. Family can be the worst betrayal, can't it?" "Yes," I said, meaning it. "Good. You'll start the audit tomorrow. I want complete financial records for all my businesses, every transaction, every account. You'll work from my main office. My people will give you everything you need." Andrew stepped in then. "Mr. Carter, Kristy is valuable to our company. We can't spare her full time." Vincent's expression hardened. "I'm paying triple your usual rate. She'll work for me until the audit is complete." It wasn't a request. It was an order. For the next 3 weeks, I worked 12-hour days in Vincent's downtown office, surrounded by his people, digging through financial records that clearly showed criminal activity. Every night, I passed information to Sarah. The FBI was building a massive case, but the deeper I dug, the more I found. And then I found something that stopped my heart. Hidden in a spreadsheet for one of Vincent's shell companies, I saw a name: Gary Thompson. My father. I stared at the screen, certain I was seeing things. But there it was. Deposits totaling $500,000 over 2 years from an account in Gary Thompson's name. My father wasn't just involved in Vincent's operation. He was a major player. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I came back, I checked more carefully. Gary had been laundering money through Vincent's network. But it was more than that. Gary worked at First National Bank in Cincinnati. He'd been providing insider information, client data, account numbers. He was feeding Vincent everything he needed to target wealthy victims. And there was another name in the files: Amber Thompson. She'd been hired at Morrison & Associates, the job that should have been mine. But she wasn't working as an accountant. She was using her access to client databases to steal information for Vincent's operation. My entire family was part of this criminal network. I called Sarah immediately from a secure line. "We need to meet. Now." That night, in a safe house across town, I showed Sarah everything I'd found. She went pale as she reviewed the evidence. "Your father is one of Vincent's key assets," she said quietly. "We've been trying to identify his source at First National for months. And your sister is involved too." "They didn't just abandon me," I said, the pieces falling into place. "They needed me gone. I'm too honest. If I'd stayed in Cincinnati, I would have found out what they were doing. That's why they destroyed my reputation. That's why they brought me to Denver." "Denver is Vincent's headquarters," Sarah said. "Do you think they knew you'd end up working in financial analysis here?" I shook my head. I don't think they cared. I think they just wanted me somewhere I couldn't interfere, somewhere I'd be powerless. I looked at Sarah. But I'm not powerless anymore, am I? She met my eyes. No, you're not. And now we can get all of them. What do I need to do? Sarah pulled out a file. We're planning a coordinated raid. Vincent, his associates, and everyone in the network. But we need your father here in Denver. We need to catch him in the act of meeting with Vincent. Can you make that happen? I thought about my mother's cruel laugh, my father's cold dismissal, Amber's calculated betrayal. They'd thrown me away like garbage. Now I had the chance to bring them all down. Yes, I said. I can make that happen. Agent Martinez coached me for hours on exactly what to say. The call to my father had to sound genuine, desperate enough that he'd believe I wanted reconciliation, but not so desperate he'd be suspicious. Remember, Sarah said, Gary thinks you're broken and helpless. Use that. Make him think you're finally accepting defeat. I dialed the number I'd memorized but never forgotten. Gary answered on the third ring, his voice sharp and annoyed. What? Hearing his voice after months of silence made my hands shake, but I pushed through. Dad, it's me, Kristy. Silence. Then, I told you not to call. I know. I'm sorry. I just wanted to tell you that you were right. About everything. I've been in Denver all this time and I've learned my lesson. I got a job at a small accounting firm. I'm doing okay. I wanted to apologize for what I said about Amber. I was jealous and wrong. Another pause. Denver? What kind of accounting firm? My pulse quickened. He was interested. It's called Hayes Digital Solutions. We do financial analysis for small businesses. Nothing special, but it's honest work. What's the firm's name again? His voice had changed, becoming sharper, more focused. Hayes Digital Solutions. Why? Just curious. So you're doing financial work in Denver. He was thinking, calculating. I could hear it in his voice. What kind of clients? All kinds. Restaurants, logistics companies, real estate firms. Pretty routine stuff. The silence stretched. Then, I'll come visit. See how you're doing. But don't expect forgiveness, Kristy. I just want to make sure you're not causing more problems. Thank you, Dad. That's all I'm asking for. I'll be there next week. I'll call you with details. The line went dead. I looked at Sarah, who'd been listening on speaker. He took the bait. He absolutely did, she said. He knows exactly what kind of work you're doing and who your clients might be. He's going to tell Vincent, and they're going to want to meet you together. This is better than we hoped. The next day at Vincent's office, I was working through files when Vincent himself walked in. He rarely came to the analysis room, preferring to have reports brought to him. His presence made everyone nervous. Miss Thompson, my office. Now. I followed him, heart pounding. Inside his private office, he closed the door and gestured for me to sit. I received an interesting call this morning from Cincinnati. A banker named Gary Thompson. Says he's your father. I arranged my face in surprise. My father called you? He's heard you're doing work for me. He wanted to make sure you were being professional. Seemed very concerned about the quality of your analysis. Vincent smiled coldly. He also mentioned he has expertise in banking regulations that might be useful to my operations. Interesting coincidence, don't you think? I don't understand, I said, which was partially true. I hadn't expected Gary to reach out to Vincent directly. Your father works at First National Bank. He has access to information I find valuable. He's been helping me for quite some time. And now his daughter, who he supposedly disowned, is working for me in Denver. So I'll ask you directly, Miss Thompson. Did you seek out this position knowing I was a client? Are you working with your father? This was the moment everything could fall apart. I met Vincent's eyes and let real emotions show: anger, pain, betrayal. My father threw me out of his car in front of a homeless shelter 6 months ago. My mother laughed and called me dead weight. They chose my sister over me. They destroyed my reputation. They took everything from me. If my father is involved in your business, that's the first I'm hearing of it. And honestly, it doesn't surprise me. My whole family is corrupt. Vincent studied my face for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I believe you. You have the look of someone who's been betrayed. I recognize it because I've worn it myself. He stood and walked to the window. Your father is coming to Denver next week. He wants to meet with both of us. He says he has a proposition. What kind of proposition? He thinks you and he could work together. Feed me information from multiple sources. He doesn't know I already have you analyzing my books. He thinks he's bringing me a new asset. Vincent turned back to me. This could be very useful, or very dangerous. I need to know you're loyal to me, not to him. I'm loyal to myself, I said. And right now, you're the one paying me. He smiled, a genuine one this time. Good answer. We'll see what your father has to say, and then we'll decide what to do with both of you. I left his office and immediately went to the bathroom, where I sent a coded text to Sarah. Meeting scheduled. Father and Vincent together. Need backup plan. Her response came quickly. Already in place. Stay safe. The next few days crawled by. I continued my analysis work, documenting everything while pretending not to understand its significance. Vincent tested me several times, asking me to explain certain transactions, seeing if I'd flag the illegal activity. I played dumb, focusing on minor accounting errors and ignoring the obvious money laundering. On Thursday, Sarah called an emergency meeting. I met her at the safe house, where 2 other FBI agents waited. One was a man in his 50s named Agent Bill Morrison. The other, a younger woman named Agent Lisa Park. We have a problem, Sarah said, without preamble. We arrested Amber this morning in Cincinnati. I went cold. What? Why? She tried to access client files at Morrison and Associates for a new victim. We had surveillance on her. Once we arrested her, she started talking immediately, trying to cut a deal. What did she say? Sarah pulled out a tablet and showed me the interrogation footage. Amber sat in a gray room, makeup smeared, looking terrified. It was all Mom and Dad's idea, she was saying to the interrogator. They made me do it. They said Kristy would ruin everything if she stayed in Cincinnati. What would she ruin? The agent asked. Their business with Vincent Carter. Dad said Kristy was too honest, too smart. She'd figure out what they were doing and report them, so they had to get rid of her. They made me steal her job, destroy her reputation, so she'd have to leave. Then they dumped her in Denver, hoping she'd just disappear. I watched my sister's face as she spoke. No remorse, no real emotion except fear of consequences. She was only talking to save herself. There's more, Sarah said, fast-forwarding the video. Tell them about the pregnancy. Amber's face crumpled. I was never pregnant. That was part of the plan. Make everyone sympathize with me instead of Kristy. Give me a reason to need her job. Kyle and I aren't even together. He's just a friend who agreed to pose for some photos. Everything had been a lie. Every single piece. Your sister is facing serious charges, Agent Morrison said. Wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. She'll get prison time. But she's cooperating fully, which means she's giving us everything on your parents and Vincent. When is Gary arriving? I asked. Tomorrow morning, Sarah said. He's flying into Denver at 9 a.m. Vincent has arranged a meeting for tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. at Reggio's restaurant, the same place you first met Vincent. And you'll arrest them there? Not just them. We're hitting 23 locations simultaneously. Vincent's restaurants, his offices, his associates' homes. We'll dismantle the entire network in one operation. But we need you to be at that meeting. We need Gary and Vincent together, discussing business. That's the final piece of evidence we need. I looked at each of them. What if something goes wrong? We'll have agents in the restaurant, outside, in the building across the street. You'll be wearing a wire. At any sign of danger, we move in. But Kristy, I won't lie to you. This is dangerous. These are violent people. If Vincent suspects anything, if your father gets paranoid, things could go bad fast. I thought about the girl who'd been abandoned 6 months ago, standing in front of a homeless shelter with nothing. I thought about washing dishes until my hands bled. I thought about sleeping on thin mattresses surrounded by strangers. I thought about being powerless while my family destroyed me. I'm not that person anymore, I said aloud. I'm not the girl they could throw away. Let's finish this. Sarah nodded. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. We end this. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the small apartment I'd finally been able to afford, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow I would face my father. Tomorrow I would watch my family's lies unravel. Tomorrow I would either get justice or end up in serious danger. I thought about calling them, warning them. Despite everything, they were still my family. But then I remembered my mother's laugh. Homeless suits her. I remembered my father's cold eyes as he took my phone and money. I remembered Amber's fake tears and calculated betrayals. They'd made their choices. Tomorrow, they'd face the consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Get some rest. Tomorrow we change your life. I typed back, tomorrow we change a lot of lives. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Friday morning arrived with cloudless blue skies, the kind of beautiful day that felt wrong for what was about to happen. I dressed carefully in professional clothes, a navy blazer and gray slacks. Sarah had already wired me up at 6 a.m. in the FBI office, the recording device invisible under my blouse. You remember the signal? She asked for the third time. If I'm in danger, I touch my left earring twice. You come in immediately. And if everything goes according to plan, I let the conversation play out. Get them talking about the operation, about the money, about their plans. The more they say, the stronger the case. Sarah gripped my shoulders. Kristy, you've been incredible through all of this. After today, your life gets to be yours again. No more fear, no more hiding. Just remember, we've got you. You're not alone in that room. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Vincent had arranged for a car to pick me up at 2:30 p.m. The driver was one of his bodyguards, a quiet man who didn't speak during the 20-minute ride to Reggio's. As we pulled up, I saw the restaurant looked closed despite it being the middle of the afternoon. A sign on the door read private event. Inside, the dining room was empty except for one table in the center. Vincent sat there, relaxed and confident in a charcoal suit. And across from him, looking older than I remembered, was my father. Gary stood when I entered. For a moment our eyes met and I saw surprise cross his face. I'd changed in 6 months. I was thinner, harder, my eyes carrying an edge they'd never had before. I wasn't his daughter anymore. I was something else entirely. Kristy, he said stiffly. Gary, I replied, refusing to call him Dad. I'm surprised you actually came. Vincent gestured to an empty chair. Please, Miss Thompson, sit. We have much to discuss. I sat, hyper-aware of the wire against my skin. The FBI agents posed as staff in the kitchen, the surveillance team across the street. Everything depended on the next hour. Your father has been telling me interesting things, Vincent began, pouring wine into 3 glasses. I didn't touch mine. He says you've always been the smart one in the family. The one with real talent for numbers and analysis. Is that what he says? I kept my voice neutral. That's not the impression I got when he dumped me at a homeless shelter. Gary's jaw tightened. That was necessary. You were becoming a problem. A problem, I repeated. Because I might have discovered what you were really doing at First National Bank? Vincent's eyes sharpened with interest. So you do know about your father's work. This was it. The moment I either got them talking or blew everything, I chose my words carefully. I know enough. I've been analyzing your financial records for weeks, Vincent. I'm not stupid. I see the shell companies, the layered transactions, the cash flows that don't match legitimate business operations. I know this is money laundering. I know my father is providing banking information. And I know my sister was placed at Morrison & Associates to access client data. The room went silent. Vincent studied me with new respect. And yet you said nothing. Why? Because I learned something important over the past 6 months. Loyalty and honesty get you nowhere. My family proved that. They betrayed me because I was too honest. So I became what I needed to be to survive. I looked at Gary. You wanted to see if I could survive on my own? Well, I did. And I learned from the best teachers. You and Mom taught me that family means nothing. That lying and cheating are how you get ahead. So here I am, ready to lie and cheat with the best of them. Gary's expression was unreadable. You expect me to believe you've changed that much? I don't care what you believe. I care about money, about security, about never being powerless again. Vincent is offering me a real opportunity here. You're just the man who threw me away. Vincent laughed, actually laughed. I like her. She has fire. Your daughter is right, Gary. Loyalty is weakness. Self-interest is strength. The question is, can we trust her? She's proven herself by not reporting what she found, Gary said slowly. That shows pragmatism. Or patience, Vincent countered. Perhaps she's been waiting for the right moment to use what she knows. Perhaps she's smarter than both of us. I kept my face calm despite my racing heart. I'm smart enough to know that working with you both is more profitable than working against you. I'm smart enough to know that revenge doesn't pay bills. And I'm smart enough to know when I'm sitting with the people who hold the real power. Vincent nodded slowly. Well said. Then let's discuss terms. Your father has been providing banking information for 2 years. Very valuable information that's helped us access high-value targets. He's suggesting that you could do the same from your position at Hayes Digital Solutions. Between you two, we'd have unprecedented access to financial data across multiple sectors. What's the pay? I asked bluntly. Direct. I appreciate that. $10,000 per month to start. 20% of any successful operations we complete using information you provide. I pretended to consider this. And what happens to Andrew Hayes? He trusts me. He'll notice if I'm feeding information out. Andrew Hayes will have an unfortunate accident within the month, Vincent said casually, as if discussing the weather. We'll position you to take over his client list. You'll be running Hayes Digital Solutions by summer. My stomach turned, but I kept my expression neutral. They were planning to kill Andrew. I had to get this on record clearly. You're going to kill him? It's business, Vincent said. He's served his purpose. You'll serve better. And if I refuse? Vincent's smile vanished. Then you know too much. And people who know too much tend to disappear. Your father understands this. That's why he's here, making sure you understand your options. Work with us and prosper. Or refuse and join the other people who've disappointed me. Gary spoke up. Don't be stupid, Kristy. This is your chance to finally be part of something bigger, to have the life you always wanted. I looked at my father, really looked at him. This man had raised me, taught me to ride a bike, helped me with homework when I was young. Somewhere inside him was the person who'd once been my dad. But that person was gone. Replaced by someone who could casually discuss murder and crime with his own daughter. I need to know one thing first, I said. When you and Mom drove me to Denver and left me at that shelter, was it really just to get rid of me? Or was there more to it? Gary and Vincent exchanged a glance. Vincent nodded slightly, giving permission. Gary turned back to me. We needed you out of Cincinnati, Gary said. You would have found out about the operation eventually. You're too good at analysis, too honest. But we also knew Denver was Vincent's territory. We thought maybe you'd struggle for a while and then find work in financial services here. We thought maybe you'd eventually connect with Vincent's network naturally. Then we could bring you in, shape you, make you useful. The fact that you ended up working at Hayes Digital was fortunate. The fact that Hayes works with Vincent was perfect. It all worked out. So you planned for me to end up here, working for Vincent? We planned for you to be somewhere we could control you. Diane's voice came from behind me. I spun to see my mother walking in from the back of the restaurant. One way or another, you were going to work for us or disappear trying to survive. I'm actually impressed you made it this far. She looked the same as always. Perfectly styled hair, expensive clothes, cold eyes. She sat down at the table without being invited. Surprised to see me? Diane asked. I couldn't miss this family reunion. Our daughters both finally serving their purpose. Amber's been very useful, and now you will be too. Amber's been arrested, I said quietly. The table went silent. Vincent's hand moved toward his jacket. Gary stood up quickly. Diane's face went white. What did you say? Vincent asked, his voice deadly calm. FBI arrested her 2 days ago in Cincinnati. She's talking, telling them everything about the operation, about you, about all of it. She's trying to cut a deal to reduce her sentence. Gary lunged toward me, but I was faster, standing and backing away. It's over. All of it. The FBI has been investigating you for months. I've been working with them, gathering evidence. Every conversation, every file, every transaction. They have everything. Vincent stood slowly, his hand fully inside his jacket now. You're wearing a wire. Actually, I'm wearing 3. And there are federal agents in the kitchen, in the building across the street, and about to come through every entrance to this restaurant. The doors burst open. FBI agents in tactical gear flooded in from every direction, weapons drawn. FBI! Hands where we can see them. Now! Vincent reached for his gun, but agents were on him before he could draw it. Gary tried to run, but was tackled by 2 agents. Diane just sat there, frozen in shock. Sarah Martinez walked in, her badge displayed. She read them their rights as agents handcuffed them. Vincent fought, cursing and threatening. Gary went pale and silent. Diane looked at me with such hatred I actually stepped back. "You ungrateful bitch," Diane hissed. "We raised you. We gave you everything." I walked closer to her, Sarah at my side. "No. You used me, and then you threw me away like I was nothing. You laughed and said homeless suited me. You wanted to see if I could survive? Well, I survived. And I won. You'll regret this," Gary said, as agents led him toward the door. "You'll spend your whole life looking over your shoulder." "No, Dad. You will. Enjoy prison." Sarah put a hand on my shoulder as they were led away. "You did it. It's over." I watched my parents and Vincent Carter being taken out in handcuffs and felt nothing but relief. The agents would raid 23 locations in the next hour. The entire network would fall, and I was free. The trial took 8 months. I testified for 3 days, walking the jury through every piece of evidence, every conversation, every lie. Gary sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, his expensive lawyer trying desperately to create reasonable doubt. It didn't work. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, recordings, testimony from Amber who'd taken a plea deal, testimony from other members of Vincent's organization who'd flipped. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Gary Thompson was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for money laundering, wire fraud, banking fraud, and conspiracy. Diane got 15 years for conspiracy and aiding criminal enterprise. Vincent Carter got 25 years plus additional state charges. 32 other people were convicted in connected trials. Amber, because of her cooperation, got 3 years in a minimum security facility. Before she was sentenced, she tried to talk to me in the courthouse hallway. I walked right past her. Andrew Hayes, thankfully, survived. The FBI had warned him about Vincent's plans, and he'd gone into protective custody during the takedown. His company, cleared of any wrongdoing since it had been an FBI operation, actually thrived after the publicity. He offered me a full partnership. I accepted. But the most satisfying moment came 11 months after the arrest. I received a letter from the federal prison where Gary was serving his sentence. Then another from Diane's prison. Both letters said essentially the same thing. "We made a mistake. Please help us appeal. You're still our daughter. We need you. Family should stick together." I sat in my new office at Hayes Digital Solutions, now renamed Hayes Thompson Consulting, and read their words. They were desperate now, scared, facing years in prison, and they wanted me to save them. I picked up a pen and wrote back to each of them. The letters were identical. "Dear Gary and Diane, you taught me a valuable lesson when you drove me to Denver and left me with nothing. You taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who stands by you when you have nothing. You left me with nothing, and laughed while doing it. I built everything from that nothing. You asked how I'd survive. Well, I didn't just survive. I thrived. I have a successful career. I have people who actually care about me. I have self-respect and integrity. I have everything you tried to take from me. But no, I won't help you appeal. You made your choices. You chose crime over honesty. You chose Amber over me. You chose cruelty over compassion. Now live with those choices. You wanted to see me beg? Instead, you're the ones begging. And my answer is no. Enjoy the next 15 years. I certainly will. Kristy." I mailed both letters and felt lighter than I had in years. Sarah Martinez became more than my FBI handler. She became a friend. She introduced me to her wife, and I found myself part of a community of people who valued loyalty and honesty. Real loyalty, not the twisted version my parents had tried to sell me. Rosa, from Rosa's Kitchen, came to my office warming party. She hugged me tight and cried happy tears. "I knew you were special from the first day," she said. "I knew you'd do great things." Margaret, my friend from the shelter, got back on her feet with help from a program I connected her to. She now worked as a financial counselor, helping other people rebuild their lives. We had lunch once a month and talked about how far we'd both come. Professor Helen Williams wrote me a recommendation that helped me land consulting contracts with major firms. She never doubted me, even when everyone else did. And me? I finally had the life I'd always wanted. Not because it was given to me, but because I built it myself from nothing. I had an apartment with a view of the Denver skyline. I had a career I was proud of. I had people who valued me for who I was, not what I could do for them. 1 year after the trial, on the anniversary of the day my parents abandoned me, I drove to the homeless shelter where it all began. Patricia was still working the front desk. She looked up when I walked in. "I remember you," she said. "You doing okay, sweetie?" "I'm doing great," I said. I handed her an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000, donated to the shelter in memory of the girl I'd been and in honor of the woman I'd become. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "This is too much." "It's exactly right," I said. "Use it to help people who are where I was, people who just need a chance to survive." I walked out of that shelter for the last time and got into my car. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Drinks tonight to celebrate? 1 year free?" I smiled and typed back, "Absolutely, I'm buying." As I drove through Denver, the city that had once seemed like a prison now felt like home. I thought about everything I'd survived. The betrayal, the pain, the fear, the desperate nights wondering if I'd make it. And then the moment I decided to stop being a victim and start being a fighter. My parents had wanted to see if I could survive being abandoned with nothing. They'd laughed at the idea of me being homeless, powerless, destroyed. Well, I'd survived. More than that, I'd thrived. I'd taken their worst attempt to break me and turned it into my greatest strength. I'd brought down a criminal empire and found my own worth in the process. They'd asked how long I'd survive. Turns out, I'd survive long enough to watch them beg for mercy from behind bars, long enough to build a life they could never touch, long enough to prove that their cruelty didn't define me. I was Kristy Thompson. I'd been thrown away and left for dead, and I'd come back stronger than anyone imagined possible. That wasn't just survival, that was victory. And as I drove toward my office, toward my friends, toward my future, I realized something important. I didn't hate my parents anymore. I didn't feel anything for them at all. They were just people who'd made terrible choices and were paying the price. I was free of them, free of their expectations, their cruelty, their lies. I was finally, completely, gloriously free. And freedom felt like coming home. So if you're out there listening to this story, if you've ever been betrayed by the people who should have loved you, if you've ever been thrown away and told you were worthless, remember this. They don't get to define you. Your worst moment doesn't have to be your final moment. You can survive, you can thrive, you can win. Take it from someone who stood outside a homeless shelter with nothing and ended up with everything that matters. You're stronger than you think, and your story isn't over yet. What about you? Have you ever had to rebuild your life from nothing? Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories of survival and triumph. And please share this with anyone who needs to hear that they can overcome anything. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you strength for whatever battles you're facing. Remember, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well despite everything they tried to do to you. Stay strong out there. You've got this.